Well, hey, everybody. How are you doing? And I'm in the wrong view here because how you doing? This is your old friend, GAIJIN50 Plus, coming at you live out of upstate Tokyo, out in the western part of Tokyo. How's everything going for you? I'm all alone today again. I guess Carl is still in the good old US of A, doing what he has to do over there. And I am having technical problems. Bum, 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 bum. We have connected here. Okay. Seems to be okay. But you know how I like to. Hi, Tokyo Dan. Hi, Kelvin. Kelvin, good morning. Bright and early in the morning over in Kelvin's neck of the woods. But you know how I always like to put stories up on the screen here as I talk about them? Well, it seems for some reason I can't share a screen today. And I've been trying to do all kinds of things. I thought just before I start up a live stream, I get in here and I share the screen and I set things up to be ready. So all I have to do is click here and there. And I was getting ready, and so I was going to set up the screen sharing, and I clicked, and I'll even do it again. Let me try it again. Share screen, share screen. Okay, allow to share window, and it won't let me share my window where I have all of my news stories lined up. So there isn't going to be any kind of news stories shown today. For some reason, it won't let me. I don't know if you can see that, but I got to get rid of that. Oh, what am I doing? Okay. For some reason, everything is going crazy today. For some strange reason, I don't know what it is. I hope you can see my face here. It seems to be, things seem to be very strange today. Come over here. I seem to have put some kind of a mask over my face. Can you see this mask? Can you see a gray mask over my face? I don't know what that is. Can everybody see that? Can you hold on? Everybody sit tight. Don't move. This is the beginning of the live stream. I'm going to restart my browser, but if you sit tight, the live stream should be maintained, but I have to restart my browser. So hang on. Don't go anywhere. Okay, that seems to have fixed it. Wow, it looks normal to you? Boy, it was all screwed up to me. Let me see if I can share a screen again. Share a screen, allowed to share window, no dice. So we're gonna give up on that idea. So I'm not going to be able to share any of the text of the message stories that I want to do. So I'm gonna just have to present them to you as I want to do. Okay, we got 5 people coming in. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Yeah, as I told you last week, I was waiting on a bunch of not a bunch, but a bit of hardware to help make my live streams better. Not live streams, but videos better and more efficient and easier to manage. And it all came in, and it's here. It came in day before yesterday, and I finally got everything set up and ready to go. And I was testing it earlier today. I made a test video, and I did a test instant live stream, and everything works fine. What I was waiting on was this. This is an iPhone 17 Pro. And what it allows me to do, it's got a really good camera behind it. And what it allows me to do, I can mount it inside of a teleprompter. And when when I mentioned this before, but I'll go through it again. But when I do a serious video where I have to be careful about my facts and make sure that I got all the numbers and the expressions correct and the names and things like that. I'll have my notes nearby, but for some reason, I don't know what it is, but the notes keep grabbing my eye and I keep looking away from the camera, which when I watch it later, it seems pretty annoying to me. And so I like to use a teleprompter where I could be looking at the camera all the time, and you won't see anything, but I'll be able to see my notes and things going by on the screen, and that helps me to make my videos look better. Now, the teleprompter needs you to mount a camera behind the glass, and you could either buy an expensive SLR or mirrorless camera and put it in there, or you can use a high-end smartphone. And since I was running an iPhone 10, I decided to go with a new smartphone. So I'll be putting up a new video. The first video with our new system will go up tomorrow. And please let me know what you think about it. It'll be a little, almost the same, but a little bit different. It'll be better quality, I think. Another thing I tried, I may have mentioned long, long time ago about doing like out field on the spot, the at the moment live streams. For example, you see something strange and you go live and you say, "Hey, look at this, everybody! Look what I found!" and do a short live or something like that. Now, I tried doing that with my iPhone XR, my iPhone 10, and it was horrible. The image was blurry and it was jerky and the audio was horrible. But just this afternoon, I did a test live stream with my iPhone 17 and it was beautiful. It was absolutely great. So be on the lookout for that. If I see something, I've seen things in the past. Maybe the next time I experience the Gaijin seat, I'll fire up a live stream and say something like, "Hey, everybody, here it is. Look at this." But that doesn't happen all the time. So don't worry. I won't be bothering you with weird sudden live streams every day. But when something happens, I'll be able to broadcast immediately. Okay. Just came back from the track window. Next week, the Japan Derby. Green energy will be the horror. You sure? Is that a tip? Is that a can't miss tip? You know, green. What are they? What's the jargon? Green energy on the nose or something like that? I don't know. Maybe you know better than I do. So you say green energy is it, huh? Okay, we'll hold you to that. Of course, if everybody bets on green energy and green energy doesn't come in, you'll reimburse everybody, right? Japan Gambler Diaries? I'm sure. Okay. New hardware and system equals new problems. Yeah, but not really. I've used the system in the past, way before I did GAIJIN50 Plus, and it works really well. It was just getting a camera behind the glass. So yeah, there are certain things that you got to get used to, but some of the tech problems that I was kind of expecting more tech problems than occurred. Okay, David Cole says, "Hello, all. Hello, David. Yeah, there was a time when I was a dyed-in-the-wool PC guy, and long ago I had a Mac. I was doing Mac, and then I changed to PC because I was forced to because of the translation database software that I was using. But then I got my first iPhone with my iPhone XR, and it was okay. I mean, it was nothing, wow, tremendous, but it was okay. And then I picked up my iPhone AirPod Pros, which are really good. I was really satisfied with those. And then Tokyo Dan said, "Hey, you ought to get a Mac Mini." And I did, and I like it. I like it a lot. Very different from the PC. Took some getting used to, but I'm liking it. I'm broadcasting here on the Mac Mini, and then now I've got this Mac. So I've, like the old Al Pacino line, I keep trying to get out and they keep pulling me back in. But you got your Mac tax and things like that, and Macintosh does leave certain things to be desired. They try to make things unique to them, and to the point that they start to be a pain in the neck after a while. But all in all, I think that it's okay. I mean, a computer's a computer, isn't it? It all depends on what you want. Okay, the first story that I had set up that I was going to show you, but now I can't, is about another Yakuza story. Remember, I told you a while back that Yakuzas are not allowed to attend baseball games. And okay. Oh, wait. Japan Gambler Diary's got a bulletin for us here. A tip for sure green energy. I won't reimburse the loss, but I will buy everyone a beer if in the Asakusa area. Okay. Well, the vast Gaijin 50 plus audience, you might be talking yourself into a big, big expense there. But anyway, Yakuzas, right? Yakuzas are not allowed to go to baseball games, not allowed to have bank accounts, not allowed to do this, not allowed to do that. And, it's not specifically Yakuza, but what do they say? Organized crime members, which includes Yakuza. So another story came out that some Yakuza member down in Fukuoka got into trouble for having, get this, a frequent flyer miles account. Now he kept coming to Tokyo, back and forth between Fukuoka and Tokyo, because one of his buddies is in prison up in Tokyo. So he kept flying back and forth and accumulated these miles, and somehow they found out about it, and ended up that the guy got in trouble because organized crime members are not allowed to take part in things like frequent flyer mileage, or what do they call those points, like in a store or something like that. And it's not really all right. The law does not say a Yakuza cannot have frequent flyers, or a Yakuza cannot be part of a loyalty point program. However, the stores don't want to be associated at all with organized crime people. So they write that into their individual store or business rules, or all those things when you join something, you got those big list of fine print that they say, well, read all this and agree to all this before you click the button, and nobody ever reads it. But evidently there's a clause in there that says, I hereby state that I am not a member of any organized crime organization. And so this guy, since he had a frequent flyer membership, broke the law by stipulating that he wasn't a member of an organized crime organization when he actually was. So it's kind of like fraud. And the funny thing is that he joined the frequent flyer mileage program in 2013, but the airline added no organized crime member clause in 2022, 9 years later. So that makes this case a little bit weird. But they are saying that even though when he originally joined, they didn't have that stipulation, they changed their terms, and every time you renew, you're supposed to review the terms and agree to all of them again. Evidently, he didn't read them, didn't agree. So he's in trouble for not really bad trouble. They probably won't do anything because it wasn't that much money, anyway. But anyway, I thought it was pretty interesting. The Japanese people really, really turned against organized crime organizations, didn't they? Okay, Japan tour guide. Oh, what is that? Oh, stars. Okay, cool. All right, green energy. So Organized crime. I mean, these people can't catch a break about anything, can they? Okay. All right, we got another one, another fraud case. All right, this is a real strange one. Every time I read a fraud case report such as this, you got to walk away shaking your head, wondering what are people thinking. Okay, we got a story about a man in his 80s. Maybe that had something to do with it. But he's a man in his 80s and he lives in Aichi Prefecture. That's the prefecture where Nagoya is located. Get this, he was defrauded of 870 million yen. 870 million yen. That's like more than $2 million because he paid the money into an investment scam that he got connected with over social media. And they say that the amount may be the largest loss ever due to fraud ever reported in Aichi Prefecture history. Now, evidently, the man accessed an investment-related online advertisement using the name of a famous person, and he was directed to an account on the Line messaging app. And they said that in addition to sending money to a designated bank account, he also handed over cash and gold bullion. What do you think about this? I mean, is it just a simple way of, yeah, that's way more. Tokyo Dano says, yeah, I was doing a quick calculation in my head. Let's see, it's about let's say it's 150. So that's more than $4 million, isn't it? That's a lot of money. And you got to figure, if the guy already had that kind of money, why was he, and 80 years old, why was he falling for an investment scam? What was he what was his long-term goal, you know? I mean, it's really weird, isn't it? I mean, we all know you know you're not supposed to send money to and hand over gold bullion to people that you don't know or you've never met. But geez, Louise, I mean, this is really something, and it makes you wonder where this guy got this kind of money. I mean, the Japan government seems to be dead set against letting people accumulate any kind of wealth, no matter what you do. But yeah, I mean, holy camole. I mean, if the guy maybe I'll give the guy a call. Yeah, invest in my live stream. What did P.T. Barnum say about a fool and his money? Well, actually, P.T. Barnum said that there's a sucker born every minute. And it was Shakespeare, I think, who said, a fool and his money are soon, it's not departed. A fool and his money are soon parted, right? A fool and his money are soon parted. I think it's an classic English proverb. It has nothing to do with. The earliest version of this sentiment appeared in print in 1573 by poet Thomas Tusser. Okay. The exact phrase used today was first recorded in 1587 by Dr. John Bridges. So, yeah, there's a sucker born every minute. It sure seems like it, doesn't it? Yeah, fool and his money soon part. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. How you doing, Lisa? How's things in the old Chugoku over there? Okay, yeah, that's it makes you wonder. Did you hear the one? I've mentioned it here before, I believe. Did you hear the one about the old lady who got connected with some guy, and this guy got this woman convinced that he's a Japanese astronaut up in the space station, and he told her that he had to pay this bill or else he was going to lose his house or his car or something. It was some financial emergency, but he was unable to pay because he was up in the space station. Damn it! I mean, they don't have a They don't have a credit card terminal up in the space station. So he talked her into sending all of this ridiculous kind of money uh, on his behalf to, to some scam place. And she did, evidently. I don't remember the details. That might have been a bogus story. It might have been fake news, but I do remember reading it. Dano says, "You guys are fast." Yeah, the age of AI. And Lisa isn't doing well tonight, Lisa says. She had an accident at the gym about an hour ago, but sitting here injured listening to your show. Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. What was the accident? Were you doing heavy weights and pulled something or twisted or slipped a disc or something like that? Well, of course, I hope you feel better soon. Wow. Okay. Dan, I hope you're not laughing at Lisa. No, I know you're not. I'm joking. You're laughing at the astronaut, I'm sure. Okay. Too bad, Lisa. Like I said, I hope you're feeling better soon. Okay. All right. So the scam. Be careful about scams because they're going on. And it's not just scams these days in Japan. It's these special teams. These we had it recently in Tochigi, where a group of, what was it, 3 or 4 young guys broke into a house in the middle of the day and killed the woman who was living there and beat up her 2 sons when they came to help her, and broke one guy's. They were swinging crowbars and stabbing and stuff like that. They were teenagers, 16 years old, and they were evidently controlled by a Japanese couple, and Japan's crime is getting more and more brutal, getting more and more violent these days. Still far and away safer, far and away less than the United States or other countries, but still it is getting more and more brutal and more, what should I say, heinous over here as well. And Dan says, yeah, I was laughing at the astronaut. And Lisa said, can you believe I ran into no, I ran into a glass door rushing to a class, can hardly walk and will be bruised tomorrow. That's too bad. I didn't mean to laugh because I did that myself. The university I worked at, we used to work in this one room, and you came out of the room and you virtually had to do a U-turn to go to the washroom. And when you did, about halfway through, right at the peak of the U-turn, there were 2 doors, and they usually swung outwards. And sometimes they would lock one of the doors, and sometimes they wouldn't lock one of the doors. And I came around that corner and I hit the door that I thought was not locked, and when actually it was. And I ran face first, and it was a glass door, and my legs went, my glasses went, and put this big red mark across my face. And one of my co-teachers says, "Oh, you look like Gorbachev," which I really appreciated at the time. Now I can laugh about it. I hope you're doing better, Lisa. It happens to all of us. Happens to the best of us. Okay. Good luck tomorrow, huh? Oh, you got to teach on. Oh, no, you don't have to teach us. So you'll be bruised tomorrow. Okay. So, okay. I can sympathize. Once I cleaned my glass door, and 2 hours later, I walked right. Way to go, Kelvin. That's a good one, right? Yeah, that's a bummer. That's a bummer, though. Okay. Too bad you didn't have your camera going. You could have gotten 1 million TikTok views. Okay, we got another story. Japan's izakaya pubs closing at a record pace, failing to attract foreign tourists. Gaijins are getting the blame again. Izakaya pubs are failing. Sounds like this big catastrophe. It's not as bad as they make it sound in the headline, of course. But maybe there are some izakaya fans here. But this says that, oh man, I told you one of the things I do, as you know, is I highlight what I want to say in the article before I display it. But for some reason, all the highlights disappeared. I've got technical difficulties up the yin yang. But anyway, izakaya are getting into trouble because of rising prices, mostly. As prices go up, as inflation, see, I almost, even in speaking English, I almost called it inflate. Inflation is causing the prices on their menu to rise, but the people who are coming, the salary workers and things like that, and as we all know, salaries aren't keeping up with prices very well over here. So they don't want to pay the higher prices. Izakaya like to do these all you can eat, all you can drink, or at least all you can drink programs where they say, all you can drink for 45 minutes, only 3,500 yen. But now those all you can drink schemes are now getting close to 5,000 yen. And the regular office workers who hang out in izakaya don't want to pay that kind of money to eat, to drink at an izakaya. And there's also, they said, a change in the drinking culture of Japan, where before drinking was almost a duty, a corporate duty. After hours, the boss would say, "Come on, everybody, let's go drinking," and they would. Back in the day, I don't know about now, but back in the day, if the boss said let's go drink it usually meant on the company account. So it was a way to keep morale up and things like that. And it was hard to say no when the boss said let's go. So if the boss said let's go and you said no thanks, I think I'm going to go home. Oh, so and so's got an attitude problem. You know how those kind of things go. And so everybody went. But after COVID, during COVID, that kind of thing stopped. And after COVID, it never caught on again. And in Japan these days, there is more of an emphasis on work-life balance. And so the things are changing, and drinking isn't what it used to be. And izakaya are having trouble. Now, what does that mean? They say izakaya are going out of business. It sounds like thousands or hundreds or something, but it's not that bad. But maybe percentage-wise, it's not okay. There's a Tokyo Shoko Research, and that's a research, commerce and industry research organization, shows that between January and April of 2026, 88 izakaya, January, February, March, April, 4 months, 88 izakaya have declared bankruptcy with debts of 10 million yen or more. That's 54.3% more than those of the same period last year, and the highest number that Tokyo Shoko Research has observed for the first quarter of the year since it began tracking such statistics in 1989, and significantly more than the previous high of 59 in 2024. So that's 88 in 2026, which is and the previous high was 59. So I guess it is a big jump, isn't it? So if you're a drinker, hang out at your izakaya, do them a favor. But it seems that also that they are saying that foreign tourists coming to Japan, izakaya people thought, the gaijins are going to come and hang out at izakaya because they're real Japanese flavored kind of places. But that doesn't seem the case. And they said that the gaijins who come to Japan, they call them international foodies. They have a passion for Japanese food, and they strongly focus on specific dishes such as ramen, sushi, or curry rice. And they say that while many izakaya do have tasty food, their broader menu makes them a little less likely to hook a traveler's attention than a restaurant whose storefront is plastered with signage featuring photo after photo of steaming hot bowls of ramen. And they also point out that ordering at an izakaya is a little bit trickier to navigate. What do you think? Do you go to izakaya? Do you notice, is it less crowded than before? Do you work at a Japanese company, and are you still being pressured to go out drinking with the boss? Okay, let's look at our comments here, see what we got going. The Ponzi scheme keeps reinventing itself, and despite all the publicity, people keep falling for it. Yeah, some way I worry about it because, I'm getting older, and many of the members who hang out here too are older people. Do you worry about it? I worry about going, bokeh, because when you're senile, of course, you don't know you're senile, and you know what I mean. So people keep telling, maybe will tell you, "Hey, you're senile, there, old Graham." No, I'm not. Get off my lawn. So I do worry about that. I don't want to go senile. But then again, if I do, I guess I won't know it, will I? When the economy is tough, people drink at home. Bing bong. It's a worldwide thing. Australian pubs fail when the economy is slow. That's one of the reasons I quit drinking long, long ago. I quit drinking around 1988, and that's right around bubble time. And during those days, if you went out drinking, it was almost impossible to catch a taxi to go home or to go somewhere else. In those days, they used to say to get a taxi, you had to wave a 10,000 yen note at the taxi driver as a tip. And then they would stop. Otherwise, they ignored you. And I was out one day and it was snowing and it was cold as hell. And no taxi would stop for me and a friend of mine who were trying to go somewhere. And it was very uncomfortable. I mean, really uncomfortably cold. And I got so mad, I thought, I'm not going out drinking anymore. And I started drinking at home, just as you said. And I would sit in front of the TV and put away this beer sitting on my easy chair every night. And I started ballooning until I hit 105 kilos, which is what? 210 plus 21, so 231. My stomach would, I used to knock myself out waddling over to the refrigerator to get me another can of Asahi Super Dry. And I knew that wasn't going to work long, or I wouldn't be around long enough for it to do anything. And so I said, screw it. And I just quit. I quit everything. I quit smoking, quit drinking, quit everything. So you're right. It was economics that made me quit. And right after that, the bubble burst. Maybe the way I used to drink back in those days, because I quit drinking is what burst the Japanese bubble. Who knows? Even though I quit drinking alcohol, there you go, a man after my own heart, the king of Saitama. I still visit my favorite mom and pop izakaya regularly, and I always insist on paying the equivalent of a mug of beer for every glass of tap water they serve me. Isn't that good? That's nice, and I'm sure they appreciate it, and I can understand where your heart is at. You don't drink non-alcohol beer? I was at a place the other day, and I don't know if they had it on draft or what, or if they just poured it out of a can, but they were serving non-alcohol beer in big, cooled, thick beer mugs, glass beer mugs, and it was cool. It tasted good. All right. In fact, I've got some non-alcohol beer in my refrigerator. You want to try some good non-alcohol beer? This is it. Asahi Zero, 0%. Good stuff. Almost the same as regular beer. It doesn't have the body, but the taste is pretty darn close. Saw Elvis in the IMAX the other day. The audience clapped when the movie ended. Pretty cool. Do you have any movie theater memories? When you say Elvis in the IMAX, is it the real Elvis or is it an Elvis story with somebody playing Elvis? My movie theater Elvis memory is when my wife and I were dating long, long ago, and we were down in Fukuoka, and we met on a date, And, it's one of these things, you get together. Well, where do you want to go? I don't know where you want to go, kind of thing. But we were right in the movie area. And back in those days, movies were the thing to do. And I said to my wife, "What do you want to go see?" And in those days, Fukuoka had this. Maybe they still do. There was this big poster right in the middle of the movie area, and every movie, a big signboard, I should say, and every movie would put a poster of what was currently playing. So we're in front of there, and my wife goes, "Elvis, I want to go see Elvis." It was Elvis on stage. Was it? He was in Las Vegas or something like that, but he was still looking pretty good. But she says, "I want to go see Elvis." Now, I'm a Beatles guy and Beatles generation guy. And, we did this to Elvis. And so I said, "Yeah, Elvis, I don't like Elvis. Elvis is a has-been. Who wants to see that crap?" But, I was young and she was young and good looking chick. And so, I was like putty in her hands. So I said, "Okay, let's go see Elvis. I'll sit through, maybe I'll fall asleep, but I'll gammon through an Elvis on stage movie." We went in, paid our money, sat down, and I started watching, and it totally changed my impression of Elvis. I became a big Elvis Presley fan after that. That guy was such a great entertainer and such a great singer and a great all-around artist. I was so impressed at that. I'll never forget that. Totally, totally impressed. And Dan says, "Elvis, didn't you know there was a new movie about him, or didn't know there's a new movie about him? I have to see it." Yeah, as soon as I saw your message, I thought, yeah. Okay, you might have to say, "I pay the owner a king's ransom." There you go. And they don't call it Mizu Shobai for nothing, do they? And you might, oops. We got a big jump here. If you are senile, you aren't going to miss the money either. Maybe you wouldn't even know you had it to begin with, Yeah. Tokyo Dan it's called Epic Elvis Presley in Concert. So it's really, I'll tell you what, the Mrs. Gaijin 50 Plus is going to definitely go out and see that one. I almost had to drag her kicking and screaming to go see the new Top Gun movie. What was that? About a year ago, because the theater, blah blah blah. But I'm sure she'll probably go every day to see Elvis, right? What about calories? Same as real beer? Zero, zero. All, in fact, they call it all zero. Let me check to make sure I'm not lying to you. If this is the one. Sorry, this has 28 calories per 100 milliliters. You can get 0 calories, but I think they put some kind of experimentane or something in there to make it taste better. Okay, so 28 calories per 100 milliliters. This is what, 350 milliliters. So let's round that off to 30. So about 100 calories per can. Not bad. I think it's less than real beer, isn't it? But like I said, Japanese, I don't know if it's Japan only, but they sure have perfected the non-alcohol beer making. My drinking problem makes me always spill the beer on my shirt. Okay, Ednoy, how you doing? Right? There's a country song too called "Drinking Problem," and there's one line in the song that always cracks me up. And they say they call it a problem, I call it a solution. So there's that too. And even Homer Simpson said that, didn't he? He said, "Beer, the cause and the solution to all of life's problems." So or drinking or something like that. Had 3 beers already and about to open a large 1 cup Ozeki. How's that for a 77-year-old guy? Okay, maybe, yeah, I'll let you work on that 1 cup Ozeki, and then I'll give you a call about some investment idea I got for you there, Dan. get your get your checkbook ready, all right? David Cole says, I'm a Beatles guy too. Rubber Soul, Sergeant Pepper, The White Album, and Abbey Road. Must have listened to them 50 times. Yeah. I mentioned here before that I went to a all boys Catholic boarding schools, and Beatles music was absolutely forbidden. In those days, the only personal music we had were records. And if the priest found a Beatles record, they would break it in half right in front of you. We were not allowed to have um, personal radios, like you stick in your pocket radios, but everybody had one, and we'd listen to them at night. And I can remember the feeling the first time. It's late at night. You're under the covers. You've got your little radio, your contraband radio under the covers, and one earphone in your ear. They never had two. It was always one, but you always put it on the side that you had your head on the pillow, so the priest couldn't see it. And the we were in southern Wisconsin, Sturtevant, Wisconsin, and the I could remember to this day. It might have been a Chicago station, and they were, how the AM DJs used to talk like that, and I could remember the guy says, "Here's the latest one from the Beatles." And it went, and nobody had ever done that before. And man, it almost made me sit bolt up in bed, which I didn't, because that would have that would have gotten me into trouble. But I remember how that sound moved me. It was really, really something. Tokyo Dan says Hail Mary Project is pretty good. Is it still in the theater? I know Dan said that he was going to go see it, and he was going to tell me about it. And I said, "Don't tell me about it, Dan. I'm going to go see it." And I never did. So next time we're together, Dan, you could tell me all about it, unless it's still around. Then I will go see it. And Ed Noy says the Penguin beat Ed in Catholic school. I could really relate to that scene in Blues Brothers, especially since Blues Brothers was set in Chicago too. And I could, with the nun had either a yardstick or a pointer, and that's exactly the way it used to be. And we said, "Oh, no," And yeah, I used to call the nuns. We used to call them penguins, and I used to like to call for the generic name of a nun, Sister Mary Godzilla. I was in my grade school, I was taught by Franciscan nuns. And then I go to my Catholic boarding school, and they were Franciscan too, but they were Franciscan priests. And yeah, those priests were some bad MFs, I'll tell you that. Okay, I got a long story about the Beatles. I'm a R&B Motown guy. Okay. What are you going to do? You're going to type it all up, or you're going to tell it to me next time? You got to be careful about Dan's long stories. He's got a joke. He's got a joke that he tells. He tells you this joke with a real goofy punchline, and everybody sits there and goes, "What?" And then only he laughs. And then the conversation goes on, the topic changes, you're talking about something else, and all of a sudden he gives a secondary punchline to the joke that he was telling a half an hour ago. And everybody's you got to be there. Sorry, Dan, if I blew your cover. If you ever meet Dan, don't let him tell you a joke. I was actually fortunate to have met Alice. Way to go, Kelvin. My parents were big fans and actually got him to autograph a photo. Good for you. I keep it in the bank lockbox now. Elvis, he had his problems, and he used to take a lot of crap. But there's a thing on YouTube. There's a video that man, I see it. It almost brings a tear to my eye. This woman tried to get him to commit on the Vietnam War. And she said, what do you think about the Vietnam War and stuff like that? You know, you're an artist and, you know, people listen to you. And he said, well, I'd rather keep my political views to myself. I'm just an entertainer. And she said, oh, do you think other artists should keep their political views to themselves too? And he goes, no, no, I don't think that at all. And I thought that was so cool. You know, Elvis was such a smart guy. Like Michael Jordan says, you know, even Republicans buy shoes, right? And Dan says he already told me. The brick. There it is. I know about the brick, Dano. I know about the brick. And the brick is, it, the brick joke is not allowed on this channel. You know, if you try to tell it here, you'll be banished from YouTube forever. No, I'm just joking. That's his joke, the brick. Prior to the Beatles, I liked the Monkees, then Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, and Black Sabbath. I grew up, and I went to Catholic grade school too. And the parish used to have a thing called Teen Club. And Teen Club was on Saturday nights. I don't know if it was every Saturday or just in the summer or something like that. And they had, I don't know if it was a jukebox or a turntable. I think it was a jukebox, but it was a free jukebox. And as soon as you turned 13, you could attend Teen Club. And so I did, you know, and it was a typical thing, you know. All the boys would be on one side of the room and all the girls would be on the other side of the room. And of course, you go to Teen Club to ask girls to dance, but nobody had the guts to ask girls to dance. I didn't. But we looked, you know, we looked at the girls and they looked at us and stuff like that. And the first teen club that I went to, I'll tell you the songs that they used to play. They were playing the Bristol Stomp. Do you know that one? The kids in Bristol are sharp as a thistle when they do the Bristol Stomp. Remember that one? That was way before the Beatles. And, you know, I've talked before, Little Peggy March. I love him. I love him. That might have been a little bit later, but those kind of bebop rock and roll. And I used to be, I was a Fonzie kind of guy myself. Never did dance with anybody at Teen Club. And the priest, there used to be a priest, Father McGinnity, and he had one of those big, long flashlights with about 12 big batteries in it. And he used to walk around the dance floor as teens were dancing, and especially the slow dances. And if you got too close, you know, teens aren't supposed to have, well, anyway, I'm not going to tell you what they're supposed to have. But if Father McGinnity thought that there was too much unauthorized contact, he'd whack the guy over the head with his flashlight. That's the way it was. Corporal punishment. Okay. And yeah, the Monkees, I remember the Monkees. Yeah. The last neighborhood band I was in, we were trying to put together some songs, but the band broke up before we ever played anywhere. And one of the songs we were trying to play was Last Train to Clarksville. Boom, 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 boom. And I was a bass player, and even though I was never any good at it, I was trying to be the bass player. And our lead guitarist was a guy named Kevin Cronin. And right after that band broke up, Kevin got pretty disgusted with neighborhood garage bands. And so he took off for the University of Illinois, where he hooked up with Gary Richrath. And they formed. Gary was already the leader of a band called REO Speedwagon. So I should have stuck with old Kevin. Yeah, Kevin went to the same primary school as I did and lived on the next block over and stuff like that. And I'm glad that he made it successful. Yeah, he's probably the most famous person I know, I would say. Okay. Japan Gambler Dyers. I'm sure you know the Yogi Park area where the 50s dancers would twist away. And they still are there. Probably the most photographed area of tourists. Yeah, the what do they call that? But there's a name for those 50s dancers. I forgot what they what they are. Does anybody remember what those 50s dancers are called? They have the they have the greaser hairstyles. Okay. Project Hail Mary is still on at Cinema 2. Sounds like a plan for me. If your priest had found a Black Sabbath album, they probably would have exorcised you. There you go, David. Yeah, probably. Probably, or excommunicated me. That was it was so funny. If you had a Beatles record, you were in big trouble. So everybody had a Beatles record hidden away. If you had one of these radios, you were in big trouble. So everybody, and smoking was immediate expulsion, or some horrible fate would befall you. You would at least get get the crap beaten out of you by the priest. So everybody smoked. I mean, it was part of our society, and there was a whole underground about getting tobacco and matches. Matches were at a we used to call them scratch. Hey man, you got some scratch? Even though scratch means money also. But there was this whole underground, tobacco underground, and somebody would go off campus to get something done, medical procedure or somebody, and everybody would give them money to buy cigarettes. It was so stupid. And I think that's why I started smoking, was because of that. I blame them. No, damn priests. Everything they said, don't do. And then when the Beatles came out, everybody wanted to grow their hair long. But back in those days, the people who are around there know that if your hair touched your ear or touched your collar, it was considered too long. Okay, your side hair touched your ears, or your back hair touched your collar. It was considered too long. And when the Beatles came out, everybody wanted the mop top look. And so at that school, we used something called dippity-doo. Do you remember dippity-doo? Dippity-doo was this stuff. You put it on your hair, and it would make your hair rock hard. You could go out in the middle of a tornado, and your hair would still look good. And we used to put this dippity-doo, until it covered our hair, and comb our hair in a way to keep it up. And then when we would get a holiday, or a long Christmas holiday or something like that, we'd go when we get home, we'd wash our hair, and it would be long. And stupid me, I got my hair long, put it over the priest. Hey, cool, washed my hair, came out. My father took one look at me and says, "Go get a haircut." So I went to get a haircut, and told him, don't cut it too much. Came back from the haircut, and my father says, "Go back and get it cut again." So a lot of good that did me. All right, Beach Boys Africa album, "Help Me Rhonda," great tune. Yeah, "Help Me Rhonda." Ha ha. Ed Noy. Back in the saddle again, Ed Noy. There you go. And okay. Oh yeah, that's where. Oh, we got some answers coming up. Thank you. I think I saw REO Speedwagon over 18 times live. Yeah, they're big college circuit band. Yeah, old Kevin, right? He was I can't say he was my bosom buddy or anything like that. Actually, he was a year younger than I was. So he was in the same grade as my sister. But my father was really good friends with his father. They were both ushers at the local Catholic church. Yeah, that is REO Speedwagon. It was the skating rink for me. Yeah. And the songs were "Knock 3 Times," "Smoking in the Boys' Room." And the last song was always a couples only dance. And the song was "Save the Last Dance for Me." Great song, great memories, great stuff. And when I was a teenager, the skating rink was big. Yeah, going to the skating rink. Everybody wanted their own skates and stuff like that. And we'd go there, and You know, the big thrill was holding hands with a girl as you did your loops around the skating rink. Yeah, skating rink. Those were good times. And Manga University, they called the dancers Yankees. I was going to say that. I said, wasn't it Yankees? Yeah, and that's what it is. Thank you. Thank you, Manga, Your Highness. The Yogi Bear. Ednoy, you've been, a little bit? Good one. That's a good one. The Yogi Bears. Very good. You've got the same sense of humor as I do, and Tokyo Dan for that matter. I used to watch those 50s dancers in the 80s and 90s, and it's the same guys, a little less spunk than they used to have. Yeah, Buli. Yeah. Yeah, Japanese, like I said in the past, Japanese people are really big on getting into something, and they get into those 50s, that 50 vibe, and everything in their life is aimed at maintaining that vibe. It's really interesting. Same thing in the country world as well. There was one guy, he was 100% country, had the threads, had the hat, had the boots. He was a very accomplished line dancer. He looked cool. He sang country music. And all of a sudden, one day he said, well, he says, I decided to quit the country world and I'm going to go into the social dance world. And he disappeared. Never saw him again. He's probably out in some dance club, social dance club somewhere, walking up to some elderly chick, saying something like, "Shall we dance?" Okay. The priest of our parish was a Stephen King fan and arranged a screening of the Salem's Lot TV miniseries for our CCD class. Not as a cautionary tale, he actually loved the stuff. Yeah, Stephen King, at the beginning, I remember my first Stephen King introduction was The Dead Zone. And I saw the movie first. And I thought the concept of the movie was so cool. And so I bought the book and I really liked the book too. And that was where a guy fell down on the ice while ice skating and bumped his head. It gave him these extrasensory powers. And if he would touch someone, he would be able to foresee their future. And he touched the hand of a U.S. senator and foresaw in the future that this senator would become the next Hitler and become a dictator in the United States. And then the dilemma came, well, now that I know that this is going to happen, is it moral to kill him, or is it immoral to kill somebody? Which I thought was a really fascinating concept. And I became a Stephen King fan for a short time, and I do like The Shining very, very much, and I do like Shawshank Redemption too. But after reading a number of Stephen King books, even The Shining, the book, I got the impression that Stephen King was really good at coming up with these fantastic concepts and writing them down, writing a story, and the story would only go like 50 pages. And then he'd say, oh shit, I got to write 450 more pages. And he would write 450 pages of crap in between his great beginning and his great ending. So I sort of cooled on Stephen King these days. Yeah, Dippity Doo, Gel in a Jar. In fact, it was. But man, it was like what do they call it? What's that clear plastic? Is that silicon? Is it where you see it on YouTube sometimes? Man, you'd put that on there and it would. There used to be a commercial, Dippity Doo for styling your hair. You don't remember those? Okay, here goes Tokyo Dan, loves his music. Righteous Brothers, Beach Boys, Four Seasons, Percy Sledge, Blue Eyes Soul, and R&B. Couldn't handle that hippie psychedelic stuff. I was a greaser. Okay, yeah, good stuff. Percy Sledge, what a great song he's saying, right? When a man loves a woman. It's like distilling men's feelings into, what is it, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes? Good stuff. One of my favorite of that kind of music, I've said this to Dan too, is Just My Imagination by the Temptations. And I used to love Gladys Knight and the Pips. And yeah, love that stuff. Speaking of getting into it, ever see Japan's Chicano subculture? No, Buli, I haven't. I didn't know there was one, but I bet you it's interesting as hell, huh? Do they all have, no doubt, little mustaches and they curl their hair and stuff? I could imagine it. Yeah. Boo those guys make me cringe. They wouldn't last a second in East LA. Okay. All right. I wouldn't know. I've never been in East LA. I was not born in East LA. Okay. Today is the anniversary of Curry Mama. That woman. She poisoned a bunch of her neighbors. Do you remember this incident? Yeah. Wasn't her name Mayumi something? What a story that was. She was in charge of preparing the curry for the neighborhood, for some neighborhood festival or get together or sports event, and she decided to pour a bunch of poison in there. And what a woman. And she looked like a person who would do something like that, which is pretty bad thing to say. But like Stephen King said, you should never judge a book by its cover, but everybody does. Okay. Yeah, that was pretty. Didn't she try to poison her husband? And after it was discovered that she put the poison in the curry, her husband continued to defend her, and she was involved in life insurance. Yeah, what a story. What a story. Okay. Love the psychedelic stuff. Okay, The Doors, Iron Butterfly, The Guess Who, The Rolling Stones, and Steppenwolf. There you go. Yeah, The Doors. I really loved The Doors. I still have, their big, it's either a double or a triple CD of all their stuff. Really, really like that. Okay. Iron Butterfly. I know some of their music, but I was not really a big fan. Guess who? Everybody loves the Rolling Stones, maybe. Okay. Chicano, how about Chicano? Chicano, I don't know how you say that word. How about those cars with hydraulic suspensions that jump? Saw one in Shibuya and the car started jumping. A Japanese old guy next to me, his eyes were about to pop out when he saw that. Yeah, I imagine so. I mean, I've never seen one in person. My eyes would probably pop out too, you know. Is that just to be cool, huh? I've never known why they do that. I got about 15 Temptations vinyl LPs plus CDs and digital downloads. Yeah, I know Dan's a big Temptations fan. Yeah, and he knows a lot about them. Okay, Curry Mama. Her name was Hayashi, and there was a Hayashi rice meme going around right after. Oh, Hayashi murders Curry. Yeah, that's a bad woman, huh? Yeah. Oh, her name wasn't Mayumi. It was Masumi Hayashi. Yeah. Hayashi rice. Bad stuff. 10 years after Alvin Lee. I don't know anything. Probably if I heard their song, I might like it. I might know it. But 10 years after, nothing. I can't associate any song name with them. I don't know much about them. Yeah, lots of it sounds good to me. Nowadays, I was prejudiced in my younger days. That Little River Band is fabtastic. Okay. Oh, David Cole. Oh, David Cole says something. Uh, 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 Maybe did I miss David Cole? Oh, the psychedelic stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And then, psychedelic stuff. Look at the Beatles, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I mean, that's quite an album. There's no doubt about that. Riders in the Storm is a timeless classic. Yeah, that's your Doors, right? Riders in the Storm. That's a great song, isn't it? Okay. I went into a bar in Roppongi in the 1980s and played foosball with the members of Iron Butterfly. Isn't that cool, Booley? I didn't know who they were till they left, and everyone commented about them. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? I remember I stumbled into a drinking place, and real quiet place, out of the way, like it was almost next door to Sophia University's Ichigaya campus. And I was a student at the time, and that's where we used to go sometime. And I go in there, and who's sitting there but Andre the Giant? And he's by himself at this table. And those little beer glasses, they used to serve beer, bottled beer, and you kept pouring it. He had one of those in his hand, and you couldn't see the glass because he had this big mitt wrapped around it. And I didn't, I mean, even though I had been drinking, I knew enough not to say anything, right? I knew enough not to even look at him cross-eyed, right? Old Andre the Giant. Okay. David Cole says, wow, that is pretty cool, isn't it? And that's one of the great things about, I don't know if it's living in Japan or generally living overseas. Those kind of things happen all the time. You get to meet people you would never get within 10 feet of if you were back at home and you were just one of the bozos members of the general crowd. It just happens sometimes. Okay. My Facebook page has a picture of me smiling and shaking hands with Daryl Singletary, who's a great country western artist. And I never would have met him if I hadn't been here. But unfortunately, he's passed away. So, okay. David Cole says, Riders in the Storm was the first Doors song I ever heard. I was hooked instantly. Yeah. I think the first one that hooked me was that one that starts out, Apocalypse Now. This is the end. Wow. Or Light My Fire. I mean, their signature song. That's another one. Okay. First Dogs song I ever heard was Light My Fire, also timeless. Yeah. Isn't it? Yeah, isn't that good? You know about, what's his name? Here we go. This is where you start getting worried about going senile. Jim Morrison. Oh, I remember. Thank God. Not yet. So you don't know about Jim Morrison. His father was some big shot military guy. They really hated him for becoming what he did. Okay. I love this group. We always get into these music topics, and it's really wonderful to discuss that thing with you. Those types of things with you. Okay. We've talked about before about the consumption tax on food. I mentioned it, I think, maybe last time, that the political parties are kind of backing off. And I was a little bit disappointed because I thought, oh, come on, Takaichi, you're going to do that? You were saying cut the what do you call it, consumption tax on food during the campaign, and then as soon as you get elected, back off of it. Well, evidently it's not her. It's the people around her, a lot of the liberal democratic people and some of the other people in the major political parties, because I found a story that says Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi said Wednesday she wants to implement a freeze on the country's consumption tax on food products, quote, as soon as possible, end of quote, despite concerns over the nation's fiscal health amid ongoing Middle East crisis, the ongoing Middle East crisis. So they have this thing where the prime minister has to go up in a debate against the leaders of the other factions in front of the Diet, and this exchange occurred. And she says, "No, I want to eliminate the consumption tax on food, and it'll help the people out and all this kind of thing." Now, evidently, some people are against it, and where is that? OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, described such a tax cut as untargeted and costly, and recommended that the tax be raised gradually. Boy, oh boy, I don't. The OECD, is that? They're not even. They're. Are they one of these? Are they one of those international troublemaking kind of things? I guess I should wait for a reply online. Okay, in the comments, because that would probably be quicker than me screwing around here with my copy and paste trying to get an answer. So the OECD is an international organization of 38 democracies. So they don't live here. They're not putting up with the inflation while being shackled by poor wage growth. And they're saying, no, you got to raise those taxes. And of course, Japan has a big problem as far as debt is concerned. But still, this concept, the books aren't balanced, so our only choice is to raise taxes. Don't cut spending, just raise taxes. But anyway, and also Takaichi made a comment about this cash register thing. Did you hear this? She wants to cut the consumption tax, but the people who run these stores, the stores that have these big cash register systems, they said, well, that's not so easy. It would take us a year to reprogram the cash registers to eliminate the consumption tax. It would take a year. And Takaichi got mad about that. And she said, Japan's inflexible cash register systems are embarrassing for the country, embarrassing for Japan. And she got really PO'd. And she said, it's pathetic if cash register systems cannot even change tax rates flexibly. For example, what would happen if there was a sudden infectious disease outbreak like we had during COVID, or a major natural disaster, and we needed to cut it quickly? And would they sit there and say, well, we can't do it for a year? She said, that's crazy. She said, and I happen to agree. Whether they should cut the tax or not cut the tax is another question. But the fact that they say, well, it'll take us a year, is that, in this, Japan is supposed to be technologically advanced and on the cutting edge of computerism and technology and modernization. And this, well, we can't change it for a year. It does seem to be pathetic, doesn't it? It reminds me of what happened after the Fukushima earthquake. If you remember about that, what happened then, when Japan didn't have a single robot that could go into the affected area and check it out. They didn't have a single robot that was capable of going into the contaminated area of the Fukushima power plant. And they had to emergency import a robot from France. They do now, probably, I imagine, but they didn't have a robot back then. Probably because all of their technology has gone into creating robots with smiling faces and high voices. Our friend Daryl liked all that hippie music. He was the first guy to paint his Fuchu Air Force Base barracks from black and hang blacklight posters. Started a fad. Okay, what a trendsetter. Hey, y'all, Plastic Tube. Nice name, Plastic. How y'all doing? Should we call you Plastic Or should we call you Tube Meat? What's your first name? Or is that Tube your middle name? Should we call you Mr. Meat? The Ventures are the band that has the most concerts in Japan, total 891 concerts. That's true. Ventures were really big in Japan, and they were big in the United States back when I was a teenager. In the band I played, in the early garage bands that I played in, that was always a problem, finding a singer. Nobody sang very well. You know, everybody was in the post-pubescent vocal range there, so nobody could sing worth a darn. And so we used to play quite a few Ventures, as a matter of fact, because we had a guy who was a hot guitar player. Wipeout. There you go. There's a blast from the past. Wasn't Wipeout a B-side, I think? If I remember correctly, Wipeout was a B-side, and the A-side of that particular record was something called King of the Surf. And these guys put out, and King of the Surf was a real surfer, typical Jan and Dean kind of cookie cutter thing. Somebody got together and says, whoa, that's a sure hit, because that's what everybody else is doing. And they put that out, and they said, well, what are you going to do for the B-side? So they put on Wipeout. And I don't think anybody's ever heard of King of the Surf these days, but everybody knows Wipeout, right? Tax cut for food proposed, but OECD wants to raise it. Yep, that's right. It sure is. Yeah, OECD. Somebody should raise them. At the end of a rope. No, I'm not saying it. No, I'm joking. That was a joke on the word raise. That's all. Don't get excited, YouTube. You know, if you what shall I say? If you, what is it? Encourage violence against somebody on YouTube, you can get into really big trouble. So David Cole says, wow, I like Gloria and CAE. To really appreciate Van Morrison in my old age. Oh, Gloria, Gloria. Is that the one you like? In my old age. It's a good song, too. But if he had peed on E at a concert, I don't think I would have jumped on the stage. Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, peed on me at a concert. Yeah. Van Morrison used to. No, I don't think he was saying Van Morrison. He was saying Jim Morrison. Morrison would pee off the stage on the crowd. That's Jim Morrison, Tokyo Dano. Jim Morrison used to do some real weird stuff. Okay. Where are we? All right. Plastic tube bait. Of course, a foreign group wants Japan to raise taxes so they can request more of those taxes for foreign affairs. There you go. There you go. Yeah, everything trickles in the same direction, right? Yeah, I love that song too. She makes me feel so good. She makes me feel all right. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what they were talking about. All right. It's probably a lie. Any 20-year-old could reprogram a system in a couple of weeks. Don't you think so? Wouldn't you think so? Wouldn't you think so? With all the kids that I see with their noses buried in digital devices? Yeah, you're probably right. It is probably a lie. And is it probably a lie? I'm going to make a general statement. And I get on people for making general statements. But that kind of thing, that kind of technique is pretty common in Japan. It may be common in other places too, but I don't live in other places. I only live in Japan, where you say something or want to do something, or somebody says you can do something, and then you try to do it, and then you're told something that you know is a lie, but it's a total block on what you want to do. It makes it impossible for you to consider doing what you wanted to do in the first place. That happens a lot here. That happens a whole lot. At least around me it does. But okay. I really like Gloria too. I think it was originally done by the Van Morrison Band, forgot his name, but I like the Doors version better. The Doors did Gloria? I never heard that. Okay, maybe so. Boo Lee, thank you. Something worth tracking down, I guess. So Dan says, let me make a Gloria note here. Dan says, cash registers can change quickly. Seems like a Minnesota Somali Learning Center level fraud. Yeah, I think it's just somebody in some position trying to block Takaichi. You know, she says, well, I'm going to do this. And they said, I can't do that. It'll take a year. And what's she going to say? She's not going to say, well, I'll get in there and do it in 5 minutes. Or where does she go for this advice? You know, it was like, yeah. I mean, you see a lot of that in when you have an entrenched bureaucracy, deep state. Okay. The retailers could simply do an 8% discount at the cash register. All these excuses are just lies to continue to fleece consumers. And don't get me started on shrinkflation. Well, Manga University, a person in your highness, a person in your position, you know, did you ever think of becoming Manga the Impaler or something like that to get this thing in motion? Okay. Sorry for the spelling typos. Like I said, I'm on a big 1 cup Ozeki. My night off. This is my night out. Sure, we all understand, Dan. I thought that your spelling was getting better, you know. Meat. Now I'm thinking Porkies. Meat. Now I'm thinking Porkies. Bully. That just went whoosh, right over my head. Sorry about that. Walk, don't limp. Walk like a man, right? Okay. Yeah. How about the bird? Well, everybody's heard about the bird. Maybe that's it. Maybe I got to look up King of the Surf to see if I'm talking out my butt. King of the Surf B-side. What was it? King of the Surf. King of the Surf was by the Trashmen. So I guess it is Wipeout. Okay. But Bird. That's quite a song. Yeah. Well, even My Baby Does a Hanky Panky. How about that one? Okay. Tokyo Manga University. The Japanese band, the Alfie, hold the record for the most concerts played in Japan. More than 3,000. Jesus, you'd think that they'd start losing people would start losing enthusiasm for their concerts after a while. Hail, hail. Okay. Hail the king. Ed stumps faces. Well, I like to think I know everything, you know. So meat, that's still bothering me. Meat. Now I'm thinking Porkies. Meat. Now I'm thinking, you know, these different comments don't come out linearly, and so it's really hard to follow something. You know, when Carl's here, Carl's really good at following these conversations. So when Carl is here, and I sit there and go, what? And Carl always has the answer, but he's not here. You know, that son of a gun. The Patti Smith Group's reinterpretation of Gloria is a masterpiece. Okay. Patti Smith, that's another one. You know, I'm going to say something here that is probably going to get me laughed at and ridiculed. But talking about reinterpretation or cover of a song, I was so surprised when Gwyneth Paltrow and Babyface did a cover of The Temptations' Just My Imagination. And the first time I heard it, I was on a car radio, and I really liked it. I said, "This is so good. Who is that?" And found out it was Gwyneth Paltrow, and I was able to subdue my urge to vomit, and I ended up liking the song, and I thought it was really good. But I told my friend about it. I told a friend of mine about it, and I said, "Listen to this song; it's so great." And they said, "That sounds like crap." And so I never admitted it to anybody. And here I am, admitting it to the vast Gaijin 50 plus audience. Maybe he's referring to my family name. Oh, plastic tube meat. Oh, okay. Okay. I forgot that there's meat in your name. I just thought you were plastic tube meat. I didn't know meat was I'm joking, but good. You were calling plastic tube meat Mr. Meat. There was a character in Porky's called Meat. Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know Porky's. The nonlinear comments is why it didn't make sense. Yeah. You want me to tell? There was something going on. You remember when they had these tickets, these discount tickets, where you could go out and get these tickets and get a 5% or 10% discount on a restaurant or something like that. And the Japanese government, as they do here, when they fracture English, they fracture it totally. They called it Go to Meet. Go is G-O, to is T-O, and meet is M-E-E-T, which is pretty bad. But I was going past a bento shop, box lunch shop, and they were showing this box lunch, and it had the big thing of rice and some vegetables and stuff like that, and it had hamburger and fried chicken, and the big lettering on the poster said "Go G-O to T-W-O meat M-E-A-T, go to meat," which I thought was brilliant. I thought that the "Go to meat" slogan was dumb as all get out, but "Go to meat" for the bento place was great. Keisuke Kuwata Band was very big. Okay, is that the guy who was on Southern All Stars? Saw Southern All Stars concert at Tokyo Dome. I didn't go to the concert, but I was bothered by the crowd who showed up to see them. Yeah, there it is, Southern All Stars. Yeah, it's exactly right. Okay. Go to meet my sister, Metal Bowl Meat. Metal Bowl Meat. So it's your sister, Plastic Tube Meat and Metal Bowl Meat. Okay. Good. Well, all I got to say is your sister's. I'm not going to say it. I was going to say your sister's meat is your sister. No, I'm not going to use the word beat in that kind of context. Okay, let's go to the next story. All right, King of the Surf is gone. OECD is gone. There's one that I thought was pretty hilarious. And that is the Ministry of Education. Get this now. Figure this one out. As you know, a lot of people, kids, young people in the rural areas of Japan dream of one thing: getting to Tokyo. And I'm not going to say all, but a lot of them do. And one way that they can get to Tokyo is to come here for college. And once they're here for college, they spend 4 years here, they get established, and it's easier for them to get employment in Tokyo, because Tokyo is where it's at in Japan, for good, better, or for worse. I'm not saying that Tokyo is a wonderful place, but it is where it's at in this country. And that's why the rural areas are suffering so much in this country. And if not, I mean, it's probably the same is true of Osaka and Fukuoka. But okay, there's a pecking order. There's a hierarchy. So I teach students, and I have students coming. And I was talking to this young lady the other day. She's from Kumamoto, and I think I mentioned this before, that one of the questions in the lesson was, would you like to live in your hometown in the future? She said, no, no way, because there's nothing to do there. Okay. She wrote a short essay. What did she say? My town, or was it somebody else wrote it? My town has a Dunkin' Donuts and a McDonald's, and that's where people go on the weekends. And so, I mean, figure it out. But anyway, we also did a story, and I'm going to be doing a full-blown video this weekend, so look out for it, about how some of these East Asian workers are coming to Japan, training in the rural areas for 2 years, and as soon as they're able to get their next level up visa, which gives them the ability to choose their employer, they boogie to Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka, because the money's better, the social life is better, and there's more to do, basically. So everybody's being pulled into these magnet urban areas. So the Ministry of Education, here we go. The Ministry of Education is going to encourage students in the big cities to study in regional areas, because they want to address overconcentration and broaden the experiences of city-dwelling students. It says the Education Ministry is launching a pilot program to promote, quote, domestic study abroad, end of quote, where students from urban universities study at regional universities and companies. Domestic study abroad. Don't they call that, isn't that an oxymoron? Given the unchecked inflow of students from regional areas into universities in Tokyo, the project is aimed at increasing opportunities for students to study in regional areas and contribute to regional revitalization. The worsening population decline in regional areas is attributed partly to the large number of young people who move to Tokyo to attend university and find employment. The ministry aims to create a new inflow of people into regional areas by publicizing cases of domestic study abroad programs and encouraging more universities to participate in the project. I guess if a university participates, they're going to get some kind of monetary subsidy. They said the results showed that 9 prefectures, including Tokyo, in 2024, experienced an excessive inflow of students, with the number of students moving in from other prefectures exceeded the number of those moving out, which is true of everything. The population does the same thing. Tokyo recorded the highest figure at about 78,000. The inflow far exceeds that of the second-ranked Kyoto prefecture at about 19,000. Now, Tokyo had an inflow, I guess it's a net inflow, of 78,000 students, while Kyoto had 19,000. That's quite a difference, right? And Osaka was ranked third at 11,000. So, what do you think of this? Domestic study abroad. You think this is a good idea? You think it'll do anything? Do you think if a university says to a person who's studying in Tokyo, well, I want you to go out to the boonies out there and study there for a while, and it'll do you good? Or do you think it's going to be, am I blocked? What happened, Dan? What, you mean about your comments? I didn't block you. And if you're blocked, on me, okay? So, okay, we're gonna go. You said Southern All Stars was great. You got, yeah, you're there. You were not blocked. I was talking about something else, so you got to wait until I'm finished talking about something, and then I'll come back to the comments. But anyway, I'm interested in this domestic study abroad. If they're going to be able to talk young people who are in Tokyo, go out to the boonies, spend a year or 2 years out there studying, and then maybe you want to come back to Japan, to Tokyo, and start looking for a job. Would you do that? Sounds a little bit strange. Glenn Campbell was a forgotten session player with the Beach Boys. Yeah, he sure was. He sure was. Glenn Campbell, what a guy. Did you see that sad documentary about the last years of his life where he had dementia, couldn't remember anything? Okay. Anyone remember the Okinawan beach rock band Diamantes? Back in the 1990s, they played a concert every summer in the Hibiya Amphitheater that was free of charge for the foreign community. Good times. Never heard of them. Nope. Did not hear of them. But yeah, the one domestic band that I was familiar with that was a mixture of gaijins and Japanese was Shogun. They were evidently quite a good band. Am I blocked? Nope, not that I know of. Japan, Glenn Campbell was also a member of the Wrecking Crew. That guy's talent was way off the chart. What a guitarist, huh? What a singer, huh? Great stuff. That is great news. If it ever happens, they need companies to allow more real satellite companies. There you go. And in fact, that's what I thought when I read that article. Instead of trying to talk students into going into the rural areas, move some of the ministerial offices into the rural areas, starting with the Ministry of Agriculture. Ba-bum, what a concept. Get those people, they've been talking about it ever since I've been here, about how they have to decentralize Japan. I mean, take the initiative, for Pete's sake. Why are they trying to talk other people into doing it? Lead by example. And then you don't have to go that far. All right. And Dan says a comment showed up unhighlighted in the chat. Hey, Dan, quick question. Not stream related. Sorry, Ed. That's okay, Kelvin. We're all buddies around here. Ask away. Some local governments offering discounted coupons for large retailers at this moment. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Didn't they have one of these local? I forgot what they call it. Fudu Sato, blah blah blah, revival or something like that. Okay. Manga agree. His guitar playing is next level, next to Roy Clark. Yeah, Roy Clark, Glenn Campbell, and don't forget Jerry Reed. Jerry Reed and his claw, She got the gold mine and I got the shaft. Yeah, he was quite a guitarist too. Move people out of Tokyo to the boonies. Maybe some will enjoy it so much they will want to telecommute from the boonies. Yeah, I used to love it up in Tochigi. I would love to be up in Tochigi now. But to live in a place like Tochigi, you have to have a car. You cannot live without a car, and you have to be able to drive that car. And I could probably still drive now, but I wouldn't. I don't want to. I don't want to. I just don't want to. And yeah, I love Tochigi. I love the life out there. I love the people up there. Okay. Has anyone seen the documentary Searching for Sugar Man? That raises a Sugar Land? Sugar Man? Sugar Land? Yeah, Sugar Man? I don't know. It rings a bell for some strange reason. Searching for Mr. Goodbye. No, I'm just joking. About a long-forgotten Santana-like artist who had a massive following in South Africa. Okay. What's the Sugar Man reference? Do you know, Dan? Searching for Sugar Man. You're right. It is Searching for Sugar Man. Okay. Is it good? Did you see it? Dan. Oh, there you go. Between Chiba or Funabashi, which would you choose to live? And don't say neither. But actually, isn't Funabashi in Chiba? I think you're saying Chiba City or Funabashi. Funabashi, I think, is a city. I know a woman who used to live. Maybe she still does in Funabashi. It's anyway. I'll let Dan answer you. Actually, Kelvin asked me the same question by email, and I haven't answered him yet. Sorry, Kelvin. Agency for Cultural Affairs of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology, MEXT, moved its main headquarters from Tokyo to Kyoto. The full location was completed in May 2020. I didn't know that. That's good. I don't know. Is that good? Why don't they move it to, I don't know, somewhere more inaka? Okay. And Japan Fair Trade Commission relocating. Okay, good to hear. Good to hear. That makes me feel that, gee, do you think they're listening? That's good. Okay. And Sugar Man, Dynamite, it will make you cry with tears of joy. And Kelvin says, yes, that's right, Chiba City. Yeah, you got Chiba Prefecture, Chiba City. Yeah, they just about every prefecture's like that. They've got it would be like the state of Illinois having a city named Illinois. It's really confusing. I hate to use that excuse, but it's true, you know. But actually, I was thinking about it. I was thinking how to answer, because Chiba. Well, anyway, I won't go. I'll write you. I thought Funabashi wasn't. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. He's talking about Chiba City. Okay. I think Chiba City might be pretty far away from. I was talking to a young lady. Now, I don't know if she lives. I thought she said she lives in Chiba City, and she told me it takes her 2 hours to get to the university. But don't quote me. I'd have to check. The movement of the various ministries to get out of Tokyo is in preparation for the next big earthquake. Could very well be, because what's going to happen. Oh, so that's why they're going west instead of north, because you don't want to be in the Tohoku region, because the Tohoku region sure seems to have a lot of earthquake problems. Every time, a lot of the times when you hear about these smaller earthquakes that have been occurring, they're almost all in the same general area as the Great Tohoku earthquake. They might even be aftershocks. And I was up in Tochigi when the big one hit, and I remember we used to have an earthquake probably once a week, sometimes more, before the big one hit. So I hope these are aftershocks and not pre-shocks. Okay. So, all right. I mean, that's all the news stories that I have. So I open this floor up to you, even though we've been doing a lot of chatting here. So what do you think, Tokyo Dan? What are you going to tell Kelvin? Funabashi or Chiba City? Chiba's pretty nice. Never spent time in any area except for Mobata and the local famous beach. I forgot the name because that was back in the early 1980s. Yeah, if you go out far enough in the Chiba prefecture, you could get to the ocean, and if you get near the ocean, the Chiba Ocean, it's warm. It's warmer than Tokyo all year round. When I was golfing, when we wanted to play golf in the wintertime, we used to go out to Chiba golf courses. It would take a long time to get there, but we'd get out there, and it would be quite warm, much warmer than it would be in Tokyo. Okay. David Cole says Tohoku is done for big earthquakes. Aichi Shizuoka is next. Oh, who knows, right? Maybe maybe Gambler Diaries would like to. I don't know. You're putting odds out. Yeah, you never know. I mean, for a long time, and based on my experience living there, I was convinced that um, Fukuoka didn't have earthquakes. Oh, Fukuoka and Kyushu in general, they don't have earthquakes like they do up north. And then Boamo. Yeah, there it is, Dan. Yeah, so you never know about those earthquakes. You said Tohoku's done for big earthquakes. It could be. Maybe the stresses have been released, but you never know with earthquakes. Kisarazu. That's exactly where I was thinking of. We used to go out to Kisarazu to go play golf, and that's where the nice beaches are. Yeah. I know a guy who lives out there. I know a guy who lives in Kisarazu there, Kelvin. Maybe I should put you in touch with him. He's an American guy. He's from Texas. Okay. I heard that with the change of capitalization requirements for a business visa, many Indian-style restaurants are going to disappear. Yeah, they've been talking about that. And in fact, there was a big town meeting somewhere, and the people in that kind of business were really complaining and really up in arms about what's going on. I don't know, who knows. Some people say that the Japanese government has made a conscious decision that they would rather have well capitalized, well organized, and well established businesses than low capitalized mom and pop restaurants. I've heard people say that that's a conscious decision on the part of the Japanese government. I've heard other people say that these capitalization requirements have put a lot of these Indian-style restaurants, mom and pop businesses in grave danger because they just can't come up with that capitalization, while the Chinese shady businessmen that it is aimed at have a much easier time coming up with the 30 million yen capitalization. What is 30 million yen capitalization? You have to be able to park 30 million yen, excuse me, 30 million yen in cash in a bank account long enough for the government to go in there and see it and say, okay, you've got 30 million yen of capitalization, and then you can use that capitalization to run your business. And they say that the shady Chinese businessmen have access to short-term loans that will give them the ability to do that. And that there are also advertisements, and I have no way of checking this. I don't know if Lisa knows anything about this, that apparently there are advertisements on Chinese social media saying, oh, yeah, we'll give you 30 million yen cash and you could park it in your Japanese bank account and you're going to be okay. So who knows? I like to think that the Japanese government somewhere along the line is going to wake up and do some kind of adjustment to these rules and regulations. But if they've made up their mind, oh, we who needs these mom and pop shops? Get out of here. Get like Eddie Murphy used to say, get the out of here. But Nobody asked me. One thing I feel really needs to change is the way taxes are handled from a parent to a child. Oh, the estate tax, along the lines of leaving the house and property, as it is almost every child either forfeits or splits the property in two and builds half the house just to pay the bills. Yeah, isn't that true? Yeah, they have to sell some of the real estate to pay the inheritance tax, and then when they sell, they have to pay consumption tax and income. And yet there was that old fart up in Aichi who had 860 million yen to give to a fraudster. And Kelvin says, yes, please do that. Yeah, I will. I'll do that either tonight or tomorrow. And if I don't, bug me. Feel free to bug me. Okay. I will take odds that a bear will bite a pedestrian before a big earthquake occurs. Good one. Good one. Yeah, I saw an article when I was putting this stuff together. I saw an article that said this summer in Japan, beware of heat stroke, beware of the bears, beware of this, beware of the earthquakes. And it made Japan sound like this dystopian wasteland that's just falling apart at the seams. It was a real strange article. And Japan will not be the same without the mom and pop establishments. Yeah, a lot of Japanese mom and pop establishments are going out of business too. And I read an article that said the Japanese government was behind that. They want more larger and more established establishments. I agree, Dan, says Kelvin Mitchell. Yeah. Mainland Chinese and Somalis have a lot in common. They are geniuses in fraud. Yeah, the Somalis. I don't want to slander an entire country, but Somalia, I mean, what's their major industry? Piracy. So they come into Minnesota and start pillaging the place. It reminds me of a movie I saw one time. These two guys were in the back of this limousine, and this businessman was talking to this gangster, right? And the businessman said to the gangster, he says, "You lied to me." And the gangster says, "What do you expect? I'm a gangster." It's like the old, the woman and the snake, right? Let me in, oh gentlewoman. Remember that one? Okay, we are Dan. He. Okay. Bears no longer shit in the woods. Yep, they shit in the city. Yep, good laugh on that one. Inheritance tax, 30 million yen plus 6 million yen per statutory heir is not taxable. Yes, that's true. Yeah. So if you've got one offspring, you've got 36 million yen that's not taxable. If you got two offspring, I guess that's 42 million yen, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, there's that. Japanese government is pretty rough on taxes. They say that America is better about inheritance tax and investment income on dividends and things like that. But they say Japan is pretty rough. I think Japan taxes investment income as regular income, which is at a higher rate. Okay. Boy, we're talking about some serious stuff here, aren't we? All right. So I will do another live stream this Tuesday, Japan time, 10 a.m. and that will be Monday evening in North America. I will be keeping that schedule for the next month and a half, I think it is. And then we'll go back to Wednesday after that. And as I said, I've got my new hardware, and I tested it out today, and it worked like a charm. It worked beautifully. And I think that the quality of the videos that I've done until now will become better, and I will be able to up my output a little bit. And so be looking for a new video this weekend, probably tomorrow. And whoa, Booley says the U.S. doesn't have an inheritance tax. They have an estate tax with a $15 million per person tax exemption. Okay, that's all right. Yeah. Did you see Jeff Bezos's interview? I thought it was pretty good. I thought Bezos handled it pretty well. You know, I know Bezos is one of those kind of guys that as soon as they see them, everybody gets the urge to start hissing. But he was talking about, he was saying things like, oh, billionaires aren't that bad. They aren't bad people. But he had a point, you shouldn't demonize people because they're successful. A lot of these guys started out with nothing, and they built up what they did. Though I hasten to add that the wealth imbalance is a big problem in the United States. So Plastic Tube Meat says 15 million compared to around $30,000. No, I think 30 million yen is like $200,000. Okay. Apple is going to announce new hardware in 2 weeks during the developers' content iOS 27. Yeah, I guess the new hardware, the according to the rumor mill, are the new glasses, the new smart glasses that they've been developing for a long time. And according to what I read, some of the people in Apple are saying that these are going to do the same as what the iPhone did when it first came out. And it was described as, with the iPhone, you're talking to your friend and somebody says something and you go, oh, just a minute. And you get your iPhone and you log in and you input and you access somewhere and you look up and you send some, and you're doing all this input and waiting and connecting. And they said with these new eyeglasses, all of that grab and input and wait is gone. That, of course, probably the iPhone has to be some kind of interface between you and your glasses, but the information you need is appearing on the inside of your eyeglasses, and you don't have to be saying, oh, just a minute, and, oh, who was that? You won't have to, like I always do here when I'm looking over here. So maybe I won't have to use a teleprompter in the future. I'll buy some Apple eyeglass, more hardware to solve all of life's problems. But that's what they're talking about. They're saying that the next big thing. I read this big report, and they were saying that in order to release some new groundbreaking hardware like the iPhone, what they have to do is they have to get all their patents in place, and they have to file all of this paperwork for the with all these governments, and to get all the proper, to be compliant with the law. And they have to have all of the hardware manufacturers lined up and the software in development and stuff like that. And this report that I read said that all of this has been being formulated for the new smart eyeglasses. And they predict that that's going to be the next big Apple hardware development thing. Now, I know as much as you do, probably less. So take what I say with a grain of salt. I just read this just like yesterday or the day before. Clint Eastwood said his long health is due to eating salmon every morning. Japanese breakfast. How is your breakfast? Well, I kind of stay away from salmon because I'm afraid of salmonella. That's a joke. Yeah, salmon's good stuff, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah. I can see eating it every morning, Japanese breakfast. There's a lot to say for the Japanese breakfast. There's a lot to say for bacon and eggs and T-bone steak and eggs and French toast and pancakes too. But yeah, the Japanese breakfast is probably very, very healthful. Oops, you're right, Mrs. Zero. I do it all the time. That's why I could spot it so easily because I do it the same thing. Okay. I wish Steve Jobs were still around. So do I. I've learned so much I learned so much listening to his interviews. Such a smart guy, a real a-hole, but such a smart guy. I read his biography. You want to read something? Read that. Actually, I listened to it on Audible. Highly recommended. If you got one of those, try Audible for $10. Do it and get the Steve. That's what I did. Get the Steve Jobs biography. And if you got a long commute, I used to listen to it on my commute into the university, and it was it's probably worth a full Audible subscription. In fact, after listening to that book, I did get a full Audible subscription for 1 month, but I never found anything as good as that one was. I hope they do something good. I don't like Apple, the company, so much, but I like their products. Yeah, yeah, yeah. On all accounts, I can agree completely. Okay, just remember, you are the product. There you go. There is that. Everything you query is recorded and sold. Techno is nice, but not only does it make us lazy, it makes us vulnerable as well. Well, I don't know. When I configure my Apple devices, I don't know how much good it does me, but they always say, "Would you like to share your information?" I always say no, and Apple swears that your privacy is our number one concern. But you are correct that you are the product. Bingo. Grits. There you go. Grits. I'm from Chicago, and I never heard of grits until I went to Nashville on business, and I tried it. And grits by themselves is like eating. You remember when you were I don't know, maybe you didn't. Maybe we were just weird. Well, you could take a piece of paper and like chew on it until it became like slush. That's what grits tasted like to me. But that's why I know now why you put all that butter and pepper and honey and all kinds of stuff in there, or maple syrup and stuff like that. But grits are pretty good, right? Bwahaha on the salmonella joke. Good. I'm glad you liked it. Booly, yeah, grits, yeah, grits. What is hominy grits? Why do they call it hominy? Seems like the real doers have the whole spectrum. Great ideas, motivators, assholes. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Steve Jobs said one of the greatest things I ever heard. He said that any company, when it first starts, like Apple did, they've got this idea for this product, which was, the computer. And the whole vision of the company, the whole purpose of the company, the whole thrust of the company is to create a computer that makes consumers happy. And that's all they think about. And then the thing takes off, and then it makes a lot of money, and it becomes a big company. And then it starts hiring people, financial people. And you got your Apple One, maybe Apple Two, or whatever. And then all of a sudden, you have to face the question of what do we do next? And he said that the tendency is to not think about what is the next best product we can make, but instead look at the process that was a success for their previous product and try to follow the same steps of the process. And he says that's BS. And he was always thinking of the next groundbreaking process, a product, which is why he would, and people would say, well, we can't do that because we don't want the Apple. And he used to say, well, I don't care, do it. And he was an a-hole. And he was, and that's, people would tell him stuff and give him advice. And he would say, I don't care, do it. Like Bill Burr used to say, he goes into this room of technicians and he says, I want every, tune in my whatever put into this telephone. Get on it, and and they did, and he was able to do it. So yeah, you have to be tough. Have you ever seen a DeLorean car in Japan? No, I haven't. I never have. Have you? Are there any? Are there DeLoreans in Japan? I would imagine they would have a whole bunch of regulatory hoops to jump through. Excuse me, so I don't start coughing into my microphone. Thank you. Yeah, but DeLoreans, I've never seen a DeLorean. I've seen Ferraris out on the street, and some other kind of sports cars, but I've never seen a DeLorean. Anybody seen a DeLorean? Tokyo Dan, when he was a young jammer, used to ride around town in a Corvette. Used to get all the heads turning. Back in the day, he could throw a speedball by him. Back in his glory day. Okay. So what do you guys got doing for? One of my neighbors one of your neighbors has a DeLorean? Really? Wow. Just think about the odds of that. The king of Saitama's neighbor has a DeLorean. Does he ride around in it? Maybe you could get him to take you back in time, and if it's a time machine, I bet you you could work out a really good deal with Gambler Diaries. He'd love to talk to you. I saw DeLorean in Japan, but that was in 2090, so technically it hasn't happened yet. Okay, all right, Booley, good one. He even has the out-of-time replica California license plate. Isn't that interesting? Rich guy's got a lot of money. I imagine upkeep is probably tough. Tokyo Dances, I probably would not still be here if I hadn't bought that used Apple II computer back in 1981. After about 2 years of studying on my own, it got me out of Eikaiwa and doubled my salary in just about 6 months. Yeah, Dan was into the tech business. He game design, game development, game programming. You know better than I do, Dan. But yeah, that's an interesting story. Apple II. Wow, that's interesting. My neighbor back in the States has a DeLorean and a Cybertruck. He sure loves that aesthetic. Yeah, that Cybertruck. I root for people like Stephen Jobs and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. Yeah, I root for them. I mean, they look what they did. They sat down, they had an idea, they did it, and against all odds, they succeeded. And so when Elon started doing his Tesla stuff, okay, that's pretty cool. But that Cybertruck, I never could. You know what I mean? There's just something about it. It looks too funky. I don't know. Just too weird to me. Okay. 1981 to 1983 were the years of manufacture. Only 9,000 were made. Wow. What, the DeLorean? Yeah. And remember the guy who was heading the DeLorean company? Wasn't he named DeLorean? His company fell apart when he was arrested trying to trying to execute a cocaine deal in order to raise cash to keep his company going. Remember that? If my memory serves me correctly. I didn't know him. I don't know him personally. He lives a few houses down the block. I should stop and strike up a conversation sometime and ask him about it. I'm sure he would love to talk about it. Yeah, cool, cool. But like I said, do you have a big house and stuff like that? I imagine something like that costs a lot of money to keep up. I visited Fort Worth and there were cyber trucks all over the place and they were all in colors. Now, okay, now if they were all in different colors, that's another story. The only cyber truck I've ever seen looks like somebody took a tin can, a generic tin can, and reshaped it and put wheels on it. They're that metallic gunmetal gray, and it looks so ugly. But colors, sure, sounds cool. All right. Yeah, I like the guys who dream and actually produce. I wish I could. Yeah, yeah. Okay, you start a podcast. Plastic tube meat. I'm sure it would be a hit. The Cybertruck doesn't have the pure 80s style. It's like the fake modern 80s music these days. It seems like it, but something's off. Yeah, yeah. Well, the 80s music was kind of weird, wasn't it? It was really like manufactured kind of music. Really, what shall I say? Generated kind of music. A lot of high-end cars these days have matte finishes. Okay, all right. Yeah, DeLorean was the GM exec who left and tried to sell 100 kilograms of cocaine. Yeah, I mean, you got to admire it in a way. He was trying to save his company. Okay, more than one way to save a company. Is he still in jail? I wonder, or has he gotten out? That's a question worth asking. Okay, let me see. So, 1982, he was charged with cocaine trafficking. All right, 1982, charged the U.S. government trafficking cocaine because they videotaped him in a sting operation. And the FBI set him up with more than 59 pounds, 27 kilograms of cocaine worth about $6.5 million. Okay. And then in September 21st, 1985, DeLorean was indicted on charges he defrauded investors and committed tax evasion by diverting millions of dollars raised for the companies to himself. He was acquitted of all other charges. But I can't see. It's probably in here somewhere. Oh, he's dead, I guess, so he doesn't have to worry about jail. He died in 2005 at the age of 80. Yeah, 100 kilograms of cocaine by Johnny Cash. Yeah, Johnny Cash did do a car song though, right? One piece at a time. One piece at a time. Died 2005. Yeah, you're right. I remember that video clip, DeLorean from the news back then, probably up on YouTube these days. Yeah, if you looked around, you could find it. There's a song though, talking about cocaine. Wasn't that what's his name? Who's the guy who was chasing the same chick as George Harrison? Famous guitarist. He says he got Derek and the Dominoes guy. He says he got out of these charges by proving. It says he got out of these charges by proving entrapment. Isn't that something? That FBI. They shouldn't do things like that, but I guess they get carried away. They when they need the arrests, right? They need the headlines, and they want people to be excited about the FBI, so they go out and make people excited. Okay, got some maybe. Uh, 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 uh. She don't lie. She don't lie. Is that cocaine? Clapton, Eric Clapton, or as who's that? Who's that woman who used to be the Attorney General? She used to call him Eric Clapmore or something like that. Eric Clapton's 1977 cocaine. Yeah, that's quite a song, isn't it? Yeah, Clapton, you're correct, everybody. Thank you. Okay. All right. Yeah, Eric Clapton is quite a guitarist, isn't he? But I was reading something just recently that Eric Clapton, people started hating Eric Clapton because of something he did. I can't remember actually what it was, but I always thought in back in the day, everybody loved him, and yeah, he was one of the guys going after. Was it Patty Boyd? The same time while she was married to George Harrison or something like that. Yeah, all kinds of weird stuff going on about that. Yeah, he was with Cream and Blind Faith and Derek and the Dominoes and Personal Problems and Continued Success, Son's Death, Tears in Heaven. Wow. Collaboration albums. Yeah, I read something. Was it they said that he started going towards a kind of music that his fans hated, so they started hating him. Yeah, yeah, that is Eric Clapton. If you want to hang out, you got to take her out. Cocaine. There you go. There you go. His opposition to COVID safety measures. Okay, maybe that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I remember because like I said, I was surprised. Um, yeah, the people were saying, "How many people have you killed with your position?" and stuff like that. And Tokyo Dano says Clapton probably said something positive about Trump. Oh yeah, and he said something about keeping Britain white. On August 5th, 1976, Clapton spoke out against increasing immigration during a concert in Birmingham. Visibly intoxicated on stage, Clapton voiced his support for the right-wing British politician Enoch Powell. He addressed the audience as follows. And there's a big long, wow, whoa, whoa, he uses some language that I don't dare use here. On Look it up. It's in Wikipedia for your reading pleasure. And so he was, and then COVID-19 and gas. Okay, all kinds of stuff. I mean, when back in my younger days, everybody loved Eric Clapton. I didn't know Eric Clapmore. She used to call him the. She wasn't the attorney surgeon general. She called him Eric Clapmore. Stop saying the C word, Ed. You might get your channel banned. Oh, are you saying clap? Okay. Yes, Your Highness. I stand corrected, Your Grace. Paul McCartney got busted here. Huge international news, but the young Showa kids love the news. Yeah. Yeah, back in those days, Japan was really hard on drugs and marijuana and things like that. And there was zero tolerance. But, times have changed. And I think the marijuana is probably one of the biggest drugs of choice, largest growing, maybe, drugs of choice among young people in Japan because it's considered to be cool. And we'll see how that pans out. Maybe he should have danced on stage with hypodermic needles. Oh yeah, that was disgusting. Even politics aside, I mean, that guy that was. Can we say that was so? Is it dirty to say that was gay? Because it sure looked like it to me. I hope I don't get in trouble for that. Camp of the Saints. Camp of the Saints. I don't know what that refers to. I'm out of it. I don't get the Sue is cider empathy these days. Yeah, yeah. I don't either. I don't either. I don't. Man, there's so much in the world that I don't understand. I don't understand hikikomori. I don't understand. I don't understand depression. I don't understand what you just said there, Mr. Meat. Yeah. Clap on, clap on. All right. Oh, talking about musicians, I was reading a story about a guy that I used to love, and that was Frank Zappa. And not so much his music, but his cheek. I really loved him. Okay. Manga, oh, the C word. Oh, cocaine. Yeah, they'll probably, do you think they'll bleep it? I don't understand the bleeping thing so much on YouTube. Even when you're watching, I like to watch these um, immigration videos, I guess you'd call them, these border enforcement videos where people are going through immigration and customs and they're finding stuff in their suitcase or in packages. And I like watching those. It's really entertaining. And every time they catch somebody with drugs or even in a serious video like that, those words are bleeped, which I always thought was weird. And you're right. I'll probably get in trouble. I don't know if they're going to. In fact, I have to, every time I publish a video, I have to declare whether certain things are covered in that video or talked about in that video. And I guess, thank you for reminding me. I'm going to have to admit that it does discuss drugs because all of us are druggies. No, we're not. Nobody, we can't be, not in Japan. Why? Japan Gambler Dyers. Why is this your handle? I think you must have an interesting background. Yeah, he's a gambler. And did you hear, Dan? He says in the upcoming Japan Derby, put your money on green energy. Guaranteed. Sure thing. All right. I don't have time to be depressed. There you go. I don't have time to be depressed either. I have too many things to be happy about. Ha ha. Just dancing around YouTube the words censorship. I can't say the self. No, I appreciate that. And you're right. Because that is one of the words. That is one of the words. I thank you. And in fact, as soon as you said that, and then I saw manga universities, I can be a little thick sometime, and it finally got through. It was one of those, oh yeah, kind of moments. Oh, I might have blown it already. But I'll own up to it when I publish this as a video. Zappa's music lyrics were too dirty-minded for me. Didn't like him. Well, that was it. That was a time. Zappa came out during a time when such words were not spoken on radio, TV, records. And as a teenage kid, potty humor was really appreciated. So that's why I became his fan. Okay. Are you also drinking? Could be. Everybody's drinking. Love Zappa. Thank you, Your Highness. My biggest concert regret is that I turned down a free ticket to a Zappa show. There is a video that I saw just yesterday, the day before on YouTube. If you look up Zappa, it tells his life story, biography about how he became what he became. It's worth watching if you're a big Zappa fan. Very well done. Very interesting. No, I had no excuse. That's just the way just the way he is. Also, Plastic Tube Meat would have been a great title for a Zappa. It sure would, right? There was the Return of the Son of Monster Magnet or something like that. Yeah. One of my favorites. George Carlin's famous 7 words you can never say on television routine. First performed in 1972. Highlighted words that were considered forbidden on public broadcast airwaves. Do you remember the Jack Parr show. Jack Parr was the late night host. He predated even Johnny Carson. And Jack Parr got taken off the air for saying WC, meaning water closet. And he got in big trouble for that. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Yes, the Zappa documentary is fantastic. Okay, you've seen it. Yeah, I enjoyed the heck out of it, and I learned a lot of things about Zappa that I didn't know. And yeah, quite a guy, quite a guy. Okay, but yeah. Oh, all of a sudden my screen went black, but I came back. But I'm back. All right, Jack Parr, Paar, and he was the original. I don't know if he's the original, but to me, he was the original. Yeah, there he is. That's him, Jack Parr. Look it up. It's on Wikipedia. And yeah, okay. Uh-oh, man down. Yeah, that was me. I don't know what it was like. As I said, I've got this mouse, and you can see it's a right-handed mouse, but I'm left-handed, so I like to rest my hand on my mouse and move the pointer around. It's a nervous tick, and sometimes my finger will, I don't know if it gets heavy or twitches or something like that, and I'll do something and really screw myself up. Maybe I shouldn't touch them. It was wild back then. Lucy and Ricky had to have separate beds. Yeah, there you go. Lucille Ball, Desilu Productions. Yeah, the separate bed. I saw something. Oh, Leave It to Beaver. You can look at this one because this one's on YouTube too. The first episode of Leave It to Beaver had an episode where Beaver sent off his allowance to buy an alligator or a crocodile or whatever, but I think it was an alligator. And in the mail came a baby alligator. And he and his older brother, Wally, were at a loss as to what to do with this baby alligator because they knew mom and dad would never let them have it. But they knew that an alligator likes water. And so they took the top off of the toilet tank and put the alligator into the toilet tank to hide him there. Okay? That's the story. And it's pretty interesting comic routine. However, the censors wouldn't let them do it because they didn't want you were not in those days allowed to show the sit down commode part of a toilet on the TV. It was considered poor taste. So what happened was that first episode of Leave It to Beaver was shelved, and they had to hurry up and shoot another replacement episode. And the person who was talking about it said that you could see that in the replacement episode something happened, and that was because they weren't prepared or something like that. And then the previous first episode was allowed to be showed as a second episode, but only if the toilet tank was shown alone without the commode part of the toilet. And that's what they said on the video that I saw. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but that's what it's really interesting. If you search around YouTube, I'm sure you'll be able to find it. I like what Carlin said about 50% of the population being stupid. Well, if you figure it is a bell curve, right? 50% of the population has to be stupid. It's statistically true. Okay. Carlin was such a genius, huh? Such a genius. Even to this day, nobody does it like him. I don't think I was allowed to watch TV when Jack Parr was doing the Tonight Show. Oh, okay. You were that young. You whippersnapper. I'm a sucker for music documentaries. Can't wait to see the Sugarman doc that was mentioned earlier tonight. I even watch music docs about bands I hate. The Journey doc, yes, I hate them, was great. You hate them too. Manga University. That's why we get along so well together. I hate Journey, and my wife loves Journey, especially what's his face, the lead vocal that used to be there before the flip guy took over. Steve Perry. My wife loves Steve Perry, and she loves Journey, and they make me sick to my stomach. But I'd probably watch and I think I have watched documentaries about it. I like watching music documentaries, and I like watching behind the scenes documentaries about movies too. I think those are pretty good. Tokyo Dano says, just think how stupid the average guy is. The thing that half the population is stupider than that. Yeah, that's it. You know, I read a thing one time about China too. You know, about the bell curve. And they say, well, you figure 10% of a population is genius, and China has this massive population. That means their population of geniuses is larger than the population of the United States, or something like that, which is, you know, something to think about. Okay. Oh, yeah, I watched Leave It to Beaver last year. Oh, okay. What's the old joke about Beaver's mother talking to Ward, his father? And Beaver's mother says, say, Ward, weren't you a little bit hard on the beaver last night? You can figure that one out yourself. There I go with the typos. Yeah, that's okay. I get them all the time. I broke my hand a while back, and I did nerve damage in my hand, and my hand I can't put my finger together. And so I'm always hitting the wrong keys with this little finger all the time. Bugs the hell out of me. There you go. Yeah, that's the one, Ednoy. That's the one. That's the one. Manga, Sugarman is fantastic as told by his doubtful children. Okay. Not allowed the sit-down portion of the toilet. Very aware of ethnocentric issues. Think of Asia initial toilets. Yeah. Boy, those old pre-flush Asian toilets. Don't want to go back to those. A lot of my friends are dumb, but they're funny. Present company excluded, right? I about the dumb part. Journey haters unite. Hey, let me know if you need help with the membership drive. Sugarman, easily available on YouTube. Okay. They're pretty smart over here in China, I have to say. Yeah. Well, they still, in China, I get okay, Dan. Dan's in there. Dan and Ednoy. I can, wait a minute. Hey, I jumped a bunch of stuff. Sorry about that. Let me back it up here. So, what are you talking about? Journey was great, but Van Halen was better. Okay. All right. If you like Journey, if you're one of those kind of people, Van Halen is okay. Yeah. All right. Steely Dan, AJA album documentary was pretty awesome, but I think you need to like their music. I liked Steely Dan. When I used to like Steely Dan as translation music. Put a little Steely Dan, Donald Fagen in the background. Yeah. Don Fagen, what, Firefly or something like that? Or Nightfly? I used to like to listen to Tom Waits, too. Tom Waits somebody gave me a Tom Waits CD and said, listen to this, it'll change your life. And it did. I did not change my life. It changed my taste in music. What a guy he is, huh? All right. Thanks for bringing that doc up, Tokyo Dan. Really looking forward to it. Okay. What was the most erotic things ever said on TV? Well, wasn't there a story on Johnny Carson where he interviewed Arnold Palmer's wife? And Johnny Carson asked her, I think it was Arnold Palmer's wife, do you do anything to support your husband's golf? And she says, yes, every week before a big tournament, I clean his balls or I kiss his balls or something like that. And Johnny Carson, made the Johnny Carson's face, and he says, he's apparently said, well, does it make his putter go straight? That's what I heard. Boy, I will probably get kicked off of YouTube. Beaver forever. There you go. This is the one I said. Tokyo Dan is Tokyo Dan and Ed Noy. It's like a Mutt and Jeff routine here. They're pretty smart over here in China. I get that impression. I got Chinese students coming to my classes at Toyo University. They've got pretty international student body. And the Chinese students are really sharp and really know how to study and really know how to speak English, and really impressive. Really, really impressive. Now, I don't know if that's the Chinese people or rich Chinese people or I don't know what, or internationally minded Chinese people, but they are impressive. Very, very impressive. The Tonight Show, hosted by Parr. His friends would remember him as the fellow who split talk show history into two eras, before Parr and below Parr. Ha, ha. That's a good one. That's a good one. I remember, he was really popular in his day. He was very, very popular. I don't remember that much about him, but I remember he was very popular. Okay. Nightfly. I love that album. Yeah. IGY. I don't know what that means. I don't. I'm a little bit out of tune here, so. Kamakiri. Donaldo Fagan. Kamakiri. Donald Fagan. Kamakiri. Isn't that the praying mantis? Boy, all these people talking, and I'm either behind the times or you guys are ahead of the times. I don't know which. That question was the setup to the Hard on the Beaver quote. Okay. Kamakiriad isn't it? Okay, that's it. Kamakiri is praying mantis in Japanese. Kamakiriad is another great Fagan album, though I believe Ed was thinking of the Nightfly. Yeah, I was thinking of the Nightfly. Kamakiriad. I don't know that one, but I'm going to check it out. Good stuff. Yeah, and I like the fact that, was it Donald Fagan or was it Steely Dan? Didn't they do a song that dumped on John Lennon, which I thought was pretty funny? Okay. And Lisa says, wealth certainly helps. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And there are some rich Chinese people running around. And he says it's Donald Fagan's second solo album, I guess. Okay. And IGY. Okay, IGY is a great track off. Yeah, probably I know that song if I hear it, but I just don't know the title. Okay. Donald Fagan. Yeah, good stuff. Good, easy listening music. Okay. Good, easy listening music. There was another guy I used to listen to back then, but I can't remember. He was so memorable, I can't remember. But it was a similar kind of laid back background kind of music that went really well with. But then again, at the same time, for translation, I used to really like to listen to the Eurythmics. Remember them? Eurythmics was a really funky band. Okay, definitely give Kamakiriad a spin, Ed. Solid from start to finish. I sure will. I sure will. Don't know about the Lennon song. Happened until a YouTube video recently. Bing bong. Yeah, same as me, actually. I didn't know that it was about Lennon until I saw a YouTube video about it. And then it started, because I think he wrote it in response to, Imagine. And Imagine is a song that I feel has done a lot of damage to the world. I don't know if it's true, but I imagine that may be. Here comes the rain again. That's a good Eurythmic song. What was that one? Like an electric wire stuck inside my head. I love that line. I used to love that line. Now that you bring up Lennon, I have to put in a mention for the late, great Harry Nilsson. Loved all his stuff. Yeah, I loved, I got to admit, he did do a lot of good stuff. And one of his big hits was written by a band that had such bad luck. Badfinger, right? Poor Badfinger, right? They had everything going for them and never made any money out of it. And it got so bad that two of the members committed the big took the big yeah, you know what I'm saying. Poor guys. Yeah, I really despise that song, Imagine. Another rich celebrity talking about no possession. Ain't that the truth? The rich celebrities are always shooting their mouth off about things that has, nothing to do with them. Okay. Yeah. Well, John Lennon, the Beatles were so cool, and then John Lennon just went off the deep end with him and Yoko Ono. Though I have come to learn from watching YouTube videos, I used to think George Harrison was such a cool guy, but if you listen to him on some of these interviews on YouTube, and George Harrison comes off like a real bitchy, moany, little whiny weenie that didn't like much about anything. I mean, you see him on the Dick Cavett show where he's in an interview and he can't wipe the sneer off of his face. I mean, he just looked like he hated everybody, and including everybody in the Beatles. Yay! There's a good one, plastic to beat. Imagine there's no Lennon. It isn't hard to do. Yeah. Yeah, we have to change the title of our show to Pop Music History or something like that. Good idea. But, well, the problem with Japan is it's a little bit of a boring place because it's peaceful. And I don't want to, I don't just want to talk about, murder things, and silly things about some guy who works in the city hall gets caught taking upskirt videos on the train. I don't want to talk about it. But so in Japan, serious, deep issues, there aren't that many of them. And, it's not like in the United States where you can start talking about bombing other countries and Somali fraudsters stealing billions of dollars from autistic children. America, shed His grace on thee. But anyway, so you run out of things to talk about after a while. We could talk, visas, that only goes so far. So like I said, Japan is a boring place. So these are good topics to. I enjoy talking about them. I'm learning all kinds of stuff from you guys. Imagine the same as we are the world. Yeah, that's a song that'll very puke-inducing, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, there you go. I didn't see your Dan. I didn't see your comment when I said puke-inducing, and you said puke-worthy. There you go. Great minds. All right. How about the lack of pinto beans in Japan? There are no. You could find pinto beans in Japan if you go to if you know where to go. Got to go see your old local pinto bean dealer. No, you can buy pinto beans anywhere that sells international or imported canned goods. Kaldi, what is it? Seijo Ishi, those kind of places, they have pinto beans. My wife actually did a bunch of chili the other day. We got some pinto beans and some El Paso or old El Paso or old something or another. Chili mix. I had it for dinner. So I had, and for lunch, no, for lunch. For lunch, I had chili and hot dogs. Isn't that neat? And we got a tip here. Pinto beans can be found at Indian food stores. And here's the rub. True, they have the canned beans, but $5 a pop. Welcome to Japan. Yeah, you're true. You're right. Right. And Tokyo Dan says, sorry, I have to microwave some curry rice. No poison, please, Dan. This is an anime. Don't put poison in it to celebrate the anniversary of the poison curry lady. Wow. Oh, hey, we're into another 2 hour and 46-minute show here. Okay, yeah. Check the Indo stores. Yeah, you might be able to find them even dry. I just my throat is starting to go. I just popped my can of Zero Asahi here. So why don't we call it a day? Call it a night. And I'll see you again. Let's get together. If you're in Japan and you got free time, I'll be here again on Tuesday morning. Yeah, Tuesday morning at 10 a.m., which is Monday evening, North American time. If you can make it, please do. And we'll talk more about other stuff. And if anything in the last part, when I open up this live stream to general discussion, anything goes, as you can see today. We talked a lot about music. If you want to bring up anything else, please go ahead. It's nice to reminisce about our, back in the day for a lot of us. If you're a younger person, you're probably rolling your eyes and saying, oh, there goes old farts talking about that stuff again. But it's been fun. Lisa, hope you're feeling better tomorrow. And everybody else, have a nice weekend, what's left of it. And I'll see you on Tuesday if you can make it. And if not, I'll see you on next Saturday. I imagine Carl will be back then. Okay. Thank you. And I'll see you next time. Got to click about 8 buttons here to end this thing.